Hello, welcome to the Empowered Marriage. So, Empowered Marriage on YouTube and also Empowered Marriage podcast. My name is Helen Harrison and I talk about everything marriage, passion, desire and fun, and don't we all want more of that? Yes, we do. So today's podcast is podcast 67, and I'm talking about the 4 warning signs. So the 4 warning signs of what? Danger, the boat's sinking. The 4 warning signs that your relationship, your marriage is in trouble. And I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail about these 4 different areas or signs, because it can happen over a matter of years, and then you wake up one day and go, oh, holy crap, I'm actually really unhappy and I'm feeling really disconnected from my partner and I want out. So the key is to get in front of all of it and to understand yourself and understand the warning signs. So let's just dive straight in. When you get married, you don't anticipate that the marriage is going to end, do you? No, you don't. Yet, 50% of marriages do end in divorce. And if you're up for a second time, the percentage is a lot higher. So why is that? Look, there's many different reasons, but I think it's extremely important to make your relationship a priority and to understand the warning signs. So, the first thing that begins to happen when you're in a marriage and when you're in a relationship is you get a bit of resistance. That's the first warning sign. And when we have that resistance, it could be that you stop being so transparent with your partner. You know, you may be out of the bubble of love and you're actually perhaps you've got babies now, you've got toddlers, you're in the absolute throes of your relationship. You could be 5-10 years in and you have little ones. And, you know, if any of you are listening to this who have children, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Your relationship changes a lot when you have children. And what can begin to happen is we get some resistance. We can feel unsupported, unloved, unvalidated, unheard, invisible. And we start to get this sort of niggling inside of us, this resistance. And some of it you actually may not share. And if you do share, you share in a way that is not life-giving to the relationship. So it's not heard anyway. And with that resistance, we can start to feel a bit uncomfortable. We just energetically feel not as connected, not as close. That resistance, the thing is, you're not sharing the resistance. The key in an empowered marriage, in a relationship, is to be transparent, that you don't have this inner world going on, that you actually share with your partner. And if you're not creating that time to do that, the resistance will bubble away. Sort of brews away. It just sort of sits there. You may go along okay for a few months, but then it comes back up again. And it's there and you're just feeling it, feeling agitated, feeling frustrated. Okay, so if you don't deal with this resistance and speak it out constantly, you've got to move the energy. You know, you are these human beings and you have this energy inside of you and you've got to move that energy. If you do not speak it out and you put it in, and then some of you may have different vices to sort of keep it in. You know, you might drink, or you might gamble, or you might watch porn, or you go shopping, or you get busy working and you consistently work so that you don't have to feel that resistance. You begin to ignore it. So do you get where I'm going with this? Yes, you do. So the next stage, the second warning sign that things are not good in your marriage and in your relationship is from the resistance, it sort of just slowly morphs into a bit of resentment. And what does resentment look like? How do we play out resentment? It's this box of, call it a box. It's this just energy inside of you where you begin to resent your partner. Well, you went and did that last weekend. It's my turn this weekend. It's this whole energy. You're not listening to understand. You could be a bit short, a bit naggy. For some of you, you may actually keep a fair bit of it in, and you just get a little bit resentful. And in the resentment stage, that's got to be sorted, because with resentment, it can build. It's a bit like a pressure cooker. I get people and they go, I'm so freaking angry. It's because a little bit of resentment from 2 years ago, and then from sort of 18 months ago, and then 15 months ago, and it builds and builds and builds, and the resentment from last week. So you've got this lovely mountain of resentment, and it's a bit like a pressure cooker. It builds and builds and builds and builds. Again, I come back to the key is to empty out daily, to be able to share, to be able to talk, to actively listen, to assertively say what you're feeling. But in this busy world we live in, we stop connecting. So where does resentment go? The next stage from resentment is rejection. Now, I became a counsellor because due to my history, I'm adopted, and I had a very strong abandonment rejection wound. And I thought, right, I'm going to work with all the adoptees in Australia. However, I quickly discovered that a lot of adoptees don't even want to go there. And what I also discovered is for a lot of people who aren't adopted, which is a large part of the population, they have rejection wounds, abandonment wounds, back when we're young, that can get formed if we don't have a strong connection with mum or dad or both. Little pains of disappointment, of hurt, but rejection. Dad might have been emotionally unavailable and he just wasn't there. And we can have this loss inside of us. Where I'm going with this third phase that we can go into when we're in a relationship, when we're in a marriage, and it's starting to unravel as we go into rejection and we begin rejecting our partner. What does that look like? We may start looking outside of the marriage to talk to people about how unfulfilled and unhappy we are. We may actually connect emotionally and physically with people outside of the marriage, perhaps at work or on a sports team you're in. I mean, it all happens in different ways, but we start rejecting our partner. They may be in the lounge room watching TV. You go in the dining room and watch TV. You don't want to be in the same room at the end of the day. You may reject them by perhaps sleeping in different bedrooms. You may reject because you start leading separate lives. You on Saturdays, one of you does one thing, one of you does another, but there's a bit of rejection going on. And so let's take this a little step further. When we're in pain and when we're not getting our needs met, we fundamentally reject ourselves first, then we reject our partner. We also feel, when a relationship begins to unravel, we feel rejection. And if we have unhealed wounds from childhood, we can feel this phase very strongly. If we are in a relationship where we've got a partner who's perhaps shut down, who isn't sharing, or perhaps drinks or smokes marijuana every day, and you're feeling that disconnect, you are feeling rejection and you're feeling a loss. But also what happens is we begin to reject ourselves. We don't have compassion for ourselves. We don't take time out for ourselves. There's a whole big area to talk about this. But when we are in this stage of a relationship breaking down and we're in rejection, you've got to wake up. You really do. Because in your head, you may have moved into a little unit down the road. You've already gone. When we're in this stage, for a lot of us also, we go into the fight and flight. So we're in survival way of living, but we're in the fight and flight. And when we're in that, we've gone. All right. And so in a relationship, in a marriage, if you're in that, it's very, very hard to bring in the closeness and the connection that is needed to keep a marriage going long term. And then what happens from this stage? Rejection, the last stage, is where we become very numb. We shut down, and it's called repression, where it's just we've gone through these other cycles and we've got to a point where I just don't know how to fix this. I don't even know what to do with this. So the only way to manage on a daily basis is to numb down, is to shut down, is the pleaser can become quite apparent because you just want to keep it peaceful. You just want to please because no, deep inside, I hear it in my room with couples I work with, deep inside that you're not in a good place in this relationship, but you have repressed, you've shut down. So let me recap these 4 stages that couples go through as the relationship begins to spiral and the disconnect begins to occur. So that first stage where you feel this resistance but you're not sharing it. That's the first thing. If you're in that stage, really begin to speak up. Sit with the uncomfortableness. Share it with yourself first. Share it with your partner. But it's very, very important. Any sort of resistance, you've got to move it. Because if you don't move the resistance, like I said, you go to resentment. And resentment is not great having that energy. Now, you may sit in these stages for a couple of years. And this is why I bang on about having fantastic communication, because you can move out of these stages quite easily. Not easily, consciously. It's making your relationship a priority. That is the key, and to do the work around this. This third stage, when we go into rejection, that is a lot harder to come out of because, when we get into that momentum, if you're in this place, you'll know what I mean. We say for example, you're at home and your partner's doing that same agitating thing he does. We'll talk about him first. He comes home from work, it's just a quick hello, he hardly even looks at you. He grabs the scotch and he goes off into his office. He's there till you call him for dinner. He comes out, has dinner, he's still not there. And then once dinner's finished, he's off watching TV. So there's no disconnect. So you feel a lot of rejection. However, you just haven't got here. It will be little by little. You haven't actually shared with your partner. And if I go, what's going on for him? He could be feeling rejection himself because you've pulled away. So I see my job as a counsellor is to get in and under that stress cycle that couples have. And when each of you take ownership of your part in that stress cycle. So where are you in those 4 stages? Are you in resistance? Perhaps you've gone straight over to that numbing and shutting down. Yes, you've had rejection, you've had resistance, but you've gone to a behaviour that you may have started doing when you were a young kid, where you just shut down. And so the idea, if you're listening to this, and as a couple, you aren't connecting, you are disconnecting, there isn't the closeness, you're not really sharing your inner worlds, and you're listening to this, the idea is you have to address it, because the longer you leave this, the harder it is to come back. We are emotional creatures. We just are. Yes, we've got these bodies, but we are emotional creatures, and every single thing that we live, we have emotions linked to it. So what begins to happen if you are shutting down from your emotions? You're also shutting down from joy and happiness and motivation and inspiration. So if you are learning to shut down, so say you're angry with your partner, but you're not sharing it with them because you're scared of their reaction. Well, that isn't helpful. It's learning how to be assertive, for you to be able to learn how to deal with that anger, but to be able to actually share with your partner how you're feeling. Because if you don't, what begins to happen is that little bit of anger. So you go to the resistance, you go to the resentment, you go to the rejection, and then you shut down. But what you're doing by shutting down, when you shut down, say, anger or annoyance, and you're not speaking into any of it, the frustration, when you're not speaking into any of it, you're also shutting down the other parts of you, joy and pleasure and fun and all those wonderful things that are needed to be in life so that we're thriving and we're coming from this place of calmness and happiness. So if you're listening to this, and I'm sort of really speaking into perhaps what you're living with, ask yourself some quality questions. First of all, ask yourself, where am I in these 4 stages? Am I just in resistance? Or perhaps I am in rejection. But really ask yourself those questions and ask yourself, well, how did I get there? What behavior am I doing that is keeping me stuck in this stage, which is not beneficial to a long-term relationship? And yes, there's 2 of you in this partnership, and I can just hear all of you now saying, well, my partner doesn't connect with me, and he or she gets really angry, or he or she nags at me, or whatever I do, it's not good enough. What I would say is, you be the version that you want your partner to be in this relationship. So imagine this is you when both of you got together, okay? You were both very loving, you were connected, you were communicating beautifully, and there was a lot of passion and desire and connection and fun. Then life gets in the way, doesn't it? And little by little, one of you or both of you, your vibration, how you're feeling inside begins to lower. Work stresses, there could have been a parent who passed, children come in, a whole heap of stuff. So stress. So your vibration of where you were at begins to lower. And you may be both down here, or one of you may vibrationally be up here and the other one is lower. But the key, so if I'm talking to you, and perhaps you're down here, it's about you've got to bring yourself up. It's what we do is we get so hung up and worried about where our partner is at. You cannot take on that burden and change your partner, fix your partner, or what's the word I'm trying to find? Change your partner. You can't. The only one you can work with is you. So it's about you being totally transparent and honest with how you're feeling. And if you're listening to this and you're not feeling that, asking yourself some really good quality questions. Okay, what do I want? What am I willing to do to get what I want? So, okay, what do I want? I want to be more honest with my partner. So what am I willing to do that? I'm going to begin sharing about how I'm feeling. I'm going to sit with the nervousness or the uncomfortableness. And it's also framing it up with your partner. Hey, I need to have a chat with you. Let's find a time that's going to work. It takes one of you. If you're both down here vibrationally, it takes one of you to have the guts to come up here. But the key is to come up to where you want to be, and your partner will either come up and meet you in that, or he or she won't. And you're not going to have to work out whether you stay or go. It's just going to wither away. It's if one of you is vibrationally down here and one of you's up here, the key is for you to stay here and for your partner to come up and meet you. It's not for you to come down and meet your partner, because you're out of integrity with yourself. You can feel it. You can feel it in the body. So keep coming up and do all that you need to do to keep up in that level. You know, your self-care, I bang on about it in other podcasts. You know, your self-care, your meditation, your being in nature, writing in a journal, exercising, all the things that we need to do to be able to self-regulate yourself. So in summary, let me go back to what I named this, the 4 warning signs. The 4 warning signs that your relationship or marriage could be in trouble. If this is speaking to any of you, don't put it under the rug and park it away, because it won't go away. It will just get worse. And if you're in the first couple of stages, you can quite easily and consciously, if you choose to, shift that and bring it back to an empowered marriage. If your stages are a little bit more on, then yes, you've got a bit of work to do. However, if you've got the will and the want, there is a way to be able to begin to change it, and work with yourselves, and then in time begin to share that with your partner. Look, I hope this has been helpful. As per usual, I've run out of time, and so I need to finish up. My name is Helen Harrison, if you don't already know that. I have a business called Power of Change, counselling and coaching, which is for my local people that live in Redlands, but also for anybody who wants to work with me. I do counselling, coaching and psychotherapy online, and also face-to-face, working with individuals and couples. So everything is on my website, powerofchange.com.au. Anyway, on that note, enjoy living in your empowered lives and in your empowered marriage. See you next time.